Starlight Glimmer, Violet Wins a True Love by Swedish dub. For the past couple of months since after Violet Wins had moved to Ponyville from Manhattan, he was very much grateful to move to a smaller community. Even he did like to live in a big city as Manhattan. He had a great friends and also had a good work. But since he was got the opportunity to be a music teacher in a small town, he took the opportunity immediately because his parents were musicians as well, and he wanted to be a musician or a music teacher. So when he lived in Manhattan at first, he was looking around for any opportunities in music business, either as a teacher or any or a singer or a musician. But after those works were quite difficult. Also within the musician business part, they often required that the pony should have at least some experience with music within the business before or even has been promoted or even been introduced to the music business of someone else. But since Violet Wins didn't have anyone who knows within the music business, so his chances with that was equally zero. Even his parents was just local musicians. They often played in the park or on the street just to entertainment, so they had no connections with the music business. So Violet Wins had to work at a local grocery store. Even he then tried to play music at his spare time to teach others, but sometimes that wasn't even much payment. Even he had maybe one or two students or part-time students actually, and that payment was not that great. He only being paid for 20 to 25 bits for each time, but he was living by himself. But one day the rent of his apartment was getting higher, and since he had his full-time work and his part-time deed as a music teacher would not be enough. He wanted to ask his parents for money for every month, because if he do that, they would not have money for themselves to pay their rent, and they had to move out from their apartment and then he as well. So one day when he was at work, he saw the day's newspaper, a list of ads of work around Equestrian, and one of them was a small ad for a music teacher opportunity in Ponyville. So he called in Ponyville just to see if the work has been taken, or there had to be some sort of requirements to be a teacher. And the local in Ponyville explained to Violet Wins that he doesn't have to be much requirements, only that he can play different kinds of instruments and is good at music, and if he is willing to move to Ponyville. So, but also he has to go to Ponyville just for the first time to see if he can play different, to prove that he can be a great musician, a music teacher. So Violet Wins then that same weekend told his parents that he's going to Ponyville to perhaps for a new work and perhaps move. And his parents was really doubtful if this even would work, but they would still be hoping for this could be a potential something he wanted to do. So he traveled to Ponyville, met the pony, and he started to play guitars, drums, and even violin, and all kinds, even piano. And the pony was actually quite impressed of Violet Winds, and he even played some old songs, even some of his own, and he explained, so far only 4 other ponies has been searched for this work, but only 2 was not qualified. 2 of them couldn't play enough music instruments, or was not good enough, or they could even play some great songs. So Violet Winds and 2 others was only one who could still be part of it. And the pony had to then consider it and who could be the new music teacher in Ponyville. And he would call him within the next few days to see if he was qualified or not. So Violet Wind went back home and waited for the next few days. Even he was at work, he was so patient and worried if he would not be qualified or not. But then the day came. Violet Winds received a call from the pony in Ponyville. And the pony said, "You're hired." That was a ball drop for Violet Winds. He didn't expect that the pony would choose him. Apparently, the other 2 ponies would still be qualified, but one had been offered another work in Trottingham as a musician teacher. So there was only him and another one. And then since the pony had to decide, and he chose Violet Winds. And Violet Winds told his parents about this, and they were very, very surprised. But they were supportive. And Violet Winds told his parents that he's going soon to move to Ponyville within the next few days. And he said he quit his work at this grocery store, and he said up to his students at in Manhattan that he's going to move, and he did. And so next, after he moved to Ponyville, all his went great. He got new friends, he got a new business, and all his students loved his teachings. He taught them some very old kinds of music, this old music, and even taught them the new popular songs even then. Even when his parents were doubtful that he was going to be last as long as a teacher. But in fact, they were wrong. Violet Winds proved them that he was a great teacher. Because at the beginning he had only like 10 students. But since after the first open house at school, he received a lot more applications from parents that their students, brothers, friends, sisters also want to be part of as a student. So they had now, the school had almost like 20 to 25 students. It was more beyond that he had even expected to have. But he was still grateful. And he had a great apartment, great work, and now he had all the most he wanted to do has. Except for one thing. To share his life with some pony. Even he dated a few mares in Ponyville, but none did it seems the right one for him. Even then, his friends often put up with some blind dates for him, but those blind dates never even worked. He didn't feel any connection with any of those ponies. Even he dated Applejack, Fluttershy, and even Rarity a few times, but none of them didn't even work. And it was even a few stallions who even asked him out, but he said he declined them all the time because he was not into stallions, only into mares. And they were not offended. They accepted his apologies and his offer, but he said that they will find their special song pony as well if they just look. And sure enough, they did. But at the same time, there were another one of the ponies in Ponyville, Starlight Glimmer, Twilight's former student. was still living in the castle and still learning about friendship. Even she was very grateful to have been friends with Violet Winds, because sometime after he moved there, she was one of his first friends he got. It was just shortly afterwards that Starlight started to get some feelings for Violet Winds, but she didn't admit it at first, because she thought that it just were some so strange feelings for some pony that she had, because she just recently broke up with Sunburst, and she just wanted to be loved for some pony. Even Twilight had told her that she will find her special sun pony, just when she at least know it. Even she went to sort of blind dates or even speed dating a few times, but none of them even worked as much. She went out on a few dates, maybe if she went out with Big Mac, they went out for maybe like 4 dates, but then nothing more. She went out with Soren for 2 dates, and even with Spike for at least 3 dates, but they decided to just be friends. She couldn't even find her special sun pony, but they just have one connection between her and Violet Winds, that both of them actually love to play music and even sing. And sometimes they just spend some time together at either the park or at the cafe or just eating lunch together. But even Violet Winds could even notice that Starlight has some feelings for him. He could even notice it. So Violet Winds went on for the next couple of months to almost a year, until Starlight realized Violet Winds was her true love. He was the pony that she had been waiting for. But she didn't know how to tell him. She had got several advices from her friends that she might be telling him directly, or either from letters or note, or even that one of her friends could tell him for her. But she preferred to telling by himself. But she was just waiting for the right moment. And just one day she wanted to tell him. But when? And how? And where? That was those big questions for her. She was waiting for the right moment. Often when she thought that this was the right moment, when she was going to tell him, she always was interrupted by other friends or by accidents from either a derpy fall dropping a letter on their face, or the weather started to rain, or all kinds of interference. So she tried to even talk to him at the castle, but often they were interrupted by Twilight, Spike, or some of their friends. So one day she wanted to tell him, but how and where? And she was still clueless where. But then one day she decided to tell him how. But then she would tell him she couldn't even find him. He was not at school, he was not at the castle, he was not at Sugarcube Corner, but he was at the park, talking to Fluttershy. They both were laughing about something, and she thought that Starlight never had a chance again with him. She thought that he was dating Fluttershy again, but they weren't. Fluttershy just asked Violet Winds for an advice for how to take care of a squirrel who has been sad lately. And he told her, perhaps you could sing to him, and that might work. And after the Fluttershy left, Starlight went up to Violet Winds and then told him right out that she loves him. And Violet Winds, he was beyond shocked. He didn't know that Starlight was in love with him. So, but he told her that he liked her as much. And he even asked her out. And she said yes, and they decided to go out the same evening. Violet Winds had made it outside the castle, and they went to this local restaurant to eat some food, and afterwards they went to local movies, and it was just a perfect day for them. Even Starlight afterwards, when she came back home, she could not feel so more happier. She felt like she was walking among the clouds. She was so beyond happy. And for the next couple of months, Starlight and Violet Winds had been dating for at least now for about 5 months. 5 months. And their love for each other has still remained strong. But one day, they had a big, big fight. They couldn't stop fighting about it. It was about where they should live together, if they were moving in together, if they were still living in the castle, if they should move into Violet Wind's apartment. But then that this fight was so going on and on. So Violet Winds told her, I'm through with this. I'm over this. And he left. And he even spoke with her afterwards. It went almost like 2 months when they even spoke to each other. And this time, that they said sorry to each other. They realized this fight about where to live was just nonsense. It was nothing even worth to talk about, even fight over. They could still be together, but they could just wait to decide where to live. Because Starlight told him if they would live in the apartment, it would not be enough room for if they had their own family. Because if they would have more than 3 or 4 children, there would not be enough room for them and the kids. So, and he realized that was quite true. But if they had one child together, that might still be room enough. But if they have more, that got a point. And since the castle has plenty of empty rooms, then they realized the castle might be the best workplace to live. But until then, they decided to live at his apartment. And she was very surprised enough that he let her to stay there. And Twilight was very much happy that she found her own place, but she was always back home, welcome back to the castle if she needed some place out to live. And even Violet Winds was offered a room there as well. And for the next couple of months afterwards, Violet Winds had actually been to Manhattan to see his own friends, his parents, and even he brought Starlight with him, just so that they could meet his parents. And she was so nervous. She was not expect that they would approve her. She thought, oh, she's a unicorn and he's a PSI. They wouldn't even accept because they both are PSI as well. But no, they were actually very approval. Because they didn't mind if there's some dating a unicorn or a PSI or even an alicorn. For the most part of the story of that, they both love each other no matter what kind they are. And his parents was very happy about it. But during the same time they were in Manhattan, when her Starlight was still spending some time with his parents, he went to see his old friends, and then he even went to his local jewelry store. He even bought an engagement ring. He was going to propose to Starlight, but not yet. He was just waiting to maybe the right moment. At that right moment was actually during the Ponyville's annual masquerade ball or festival. He was dressed as a pirate, and she was dressed as a ghost. Then he even proposed to her during this festival. She was beyond happy. When they told all about their friends and families the day after, it was something they all didn't know expect. They thought maybe they would wait a few more years for about thinking about a marriage. but they both told their friends and family they were feeling ready for a commitment, to settle down, and they were right. Just shortly afterwards, a few months, they were actually married in Poland. At first, they had Violet Winds had actually planned this date or this honeymoon especially just for Violet Wind and for Starlight. He first planned the date to Ruslan spend first 1 week in Crystal Empire and 1 week in Griffinstone and the next 2 weeks afterwards in Saddle Arabia. Starlight was very happy to spend all the time with Violet Winds, even in Crystal Empire, Griffinstone, and even Saddle Arabia. And especially when they were in Saddle Arabia. It was beyond they were never expect to learn a new time, an entire culture. But then, something did happen when they were still in Saddle Arabia. Starlight found out that she was pregnant. She was still about a few weeks pregnant, and she didn't tell Violet Winds about it, because she wasn't even sure if she was pregnant or not, because when she came home back to Poland, she visited a doctor, and the doctor could confirm she was pregnant. And after the visit to the doctor, she told him. And how did he react? He was so happy he could even stay steady. He flew right up in the air, flying around and making a lot of loops and screaming, "I'm going to be a father! I'm going to be a father!" And everyone in Ponyville was stunned. They had never seen him act like that. But when they heard what he said, all of them just were cheering. And right then, a few months later, they had actually a daughter. And just afterward, a few years after, they had actually 2 more children. And this time, twin sons. Starlight and Violet Winds remained in Ponyville, and Violet Winds actually remained as a music teacher. And also, his daughter, she became a Pegasi like him, and his sons as unicorns. They practiced magic with their mother and also tried to and even learned music from their father. All of the children had this very much grateful. They both had this great potential in with the music or even magic. But even Starlight was very happy to be married and even have her own family, especially with Violet Winds. And just shortly after their wedding and after the honeymoon they came back home, Starlight had forgiven Sunburst after the breakup, and he had become their children's godfather. And he was happy to be at least their godfather and still be friends with Starlight. He felt guilty about their breakup, but he was happy that he was happy with someone else. And that's how Starlight Glimmer and Violet Winds found the true love and got a family. The end.